Welcome, everyone, to another edition of our Sawdust City Happy Hour tasting. Sam Corbeil on the other side of the Zoom chat for us here, as always, as we get set to review yet another of the beautiful creations coming out of Sawdust City Brewing. If you'd like to go to sawdustcitybeer.com, you can do so and pick yourselves up an order. I suggest that you do so. Some of the stuff is brewery exclusive, some of the stuff's the LCBO. You can find out exactly where all of those things are by going onto the website as well. But today we are looking at another one that's near and dear to my heart, a Hefeweizen, which is something that we have done a variety of different kind of dabbling into in our tastings here on Canadian Football Perspective for football fans to get a sense of what you might like going forward. But talk to me about Wax On, the creation that we have today, and specifically the collaboration with the Indie Alehouse Brewing Company here, Sam.
Okay, so this was actually a beer. We brewed two different versions of it, one in open fermentation and one in closed fermentation. It was for the Canadian Brewing Awards. We did a presentation there during the discussions, and basically we're just seeing what the difference in perceived aroma and phenolics was when you have open or closed fermentation. So tradition tells us that open fermentation is how the Germans made their Hefeweizens. But nowadays most fermenters, at least in small places, are closed fermentation. So we wanted to see if there was actually a difference. So we did it from not just the standpoint of like flavor and aroma, but also from a chemical standpoint. So we actually had the final product tested in a lab to see what sort of compounds were produced. And lo and behold, it was exactly like we thought it would be. And open fermentation allowed for more phenolics to be produced during primary fermentation, which means you get a little bit more of the banana or the clove, and it's more pronounced. And that was the one. Ours was the closed, and Indie's was the open.
Interesting.
So it was a fun experiment because it's something that we always kind of knew about, but never really tested the theory. And I finally get to use this is actually a glass from my very first brewery I ever worked at, Magnata, and this is a real Hefe glass. It's tall with these spirals in it to make the bubbles look bigger, and finally get to use it. It's been sitting in my cabinet for years.
I was gonna say that's a beer glass. That's what that thing is right there. Like, and I know that we've talked about your experience being over in Europe and Germany and researching these things and studying all of it. But like when I think of beer, that's the glass that I think of.
It's a great glass, and like it really presents the beer well. I like it a lot. I don't pull it out very often. It just sits down there because it's not a style we make a lot of, even though I really love it, and I missed it when I was in Germany. But I'm happy to get to make it with the guys from Indie, and I think it was a really fun experiment, and it really proved that history does. Before they even knew what the science was, they kind of were on the right path with the open fermentation. It kind of goes to like stressing the yeast out. When it's open, it kind of can do whatever. It's free to do whatever it wants. But once you put a top on it, there's always some sort of pressure in the tank, which mutes things. I mean, I find this, like, I get a lot of aroma, and you have that like banana clove aroma, but or clove and banana. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, by the way, I'm using a CFL LCF glass today. Not very fancy, not very beer-like. I'm just pouring one out for Vernon Adams Jr. because the quarterback from the Montreal Alouettes, who rocks the LCF on his jersey, ends up having a 6-week injury at the very least, it looks like. But anyways, this to me, like, part of the reason that I love the whole Hefeweizen style is because I love that banana clove feel, like the mouth texture, the lightness that it has kind of on your stomach. Like, it's not heavy, it's enjoyable, it's smooth. And I know that we talk about this all the time because, of course, we are Canadian Football Perspective here, and everybody who's listening or watching this, we assume has some sort of connection to football. This is such a great tailgate beer. Like, it doesn't even have to be in the summertime or seasonal. Like, to me, I could drink any time of the year and use it at a tailgate, at a pregame, and it would just be such an enjoyable light where you can go in and you can get yourself 2 hot dogs and a burger if you want, right? Because your stomach is not destroyed by the beers that you had previously. But specifically working with the banana and clove stuff, I've kind of always wondered about this as somebody who I used to drink Heyday, which was an old Granville Island creation. I don't know if they're still doing that, but and when it was in the LCBO, that was kind of one of my first exposures as a university beer drinker to, oh, I really like this. What the hell is in this thing? And it was the whole banana and clove and Hefeweizen. So the process of working specifically with the banana and the clove, like, How do you get that stuff in? How do you make it feel so smooth?
Well, the thing is, we don't do anything. That's all the yeast.
Yeah.
So this specific strain of yeast, those are, so we all have different scents, let's say. When we eat things and we pass some gas, let's say, we all have a different aroma. And every yeast strain has its own little aromas that it poops out when it's eating sugars. So this particular strain, these are the aromas and compounds that it creates while it ferments, and this is it metabolizes the sugar, and these are the byproducts. So the German Hefeweizen strain gives you those. It's one of the compounds called 4-vinyl glycol, which is, and then you have isoamyl acetate, which are all different compounds that are created during the fermentation. So
you're a nerd, Sam Corbeil. You are a nerd.
Well, I'm nerd, and this is the stuff I like to nerd out about, and it was fun because we also had the guys from Lawlam and Yeast as part of this experiment too, and they were the ones that did the lab testing to see what the what with the levels of those compounds. And as you were saying about the tailgating beer, when I was in Berlin, this is what we drank when we would go to the beer gardens and sit out and just relax it for the day. That's to me what I remember. Just chilling on it, whether it was warm or cold or whatever. I always loved Hefeweizen. It's a great, it's a big flavor. It's a total sessionable beer. You get all of this, and it's not huge ABV, and you don't get bored of it. It's like you can drink them like a lot.
Yeah, and that kind of I think leads itself into my next question, which is, what's the funniest thing that you've seen happen around a Hefeweizen beer fest collection? Because I'm sure that you go somewhere in those German beer gardens, you sit around and everybody's crushing these things. There's got to be some fun story from sitting around out in the sun, otherwise summer, fall, and just experiencing that in its truest form. Because I think there's a lot of people who love beer that are in Canada that have this perception of German beer drinking or European beer drinking who have never experienced it before.
Well, for me, the first thing that struck me was there was playgrounds in the beer gardens. So they would bring their kids. So to me, growing up, I would go to the ball diamond with my dad and we would play in the playground. They go to the beer garden and play while their parents sit and drink. I always thought that was pretty awesome. But also, we went to this one, and it was really early on during the school year, and I just met some of the guys, and we went out to this. It was sort of like a food festival, but they had some, wheat beer. We were sitting in this mock sort of like beer garden that they had, and we didn't have no idea what these guys were talking about. They were pretty drunk, but they got up on the table and they just started dancing. So we got up on the table too. Everyone started jumping, and then the table collapsed and it smashed. But it smashed down on my new friend Sebastian, who was a brewer out in BC. And the table collapsed on his bag. This is I would say 1 week into the year that we were going to be there, and he brought his brand new iPad. At the time, it was those where they only played music, the little iPod.
Yeah, the iPod Mini that would have the spinning wheel.
So it was right underneath the table, and it smashed 1 weekend. It was heartbreaking because oh my god, I have no entertainment at the beginning of this thing. But it was also fun to get up on the table and just. We don't know why they were doing it. We're just well, when in Rome, get up on the table and jump.
It sounds like the Germans are Bills fans, just jumping through tables and having a hell of a time around a whole bunch of the beers as well. But that is super fun. And again, it's Wax On. If you'd like to be able to check it out, it is so crisp and so clean. Is there something that you want to tell people about this specific creation that maybe you don't get asked about a lot, Sam, or that people don't really know about this style that you want to get out there?
Well, the Hefe the style itself is, it's a German wheat beer. The Hefe means yeast, and Weizen is, so it's wheat. So it's wheat beer with Hefe, which is with yeast. So it's always very murky, very hazy. It's light. The wheat lightens things up. But that yeast strain is the thing that derives the flavor. And so Indies is available, and theirs is called Wax Off. So we have Wax On, Wax Off. And you can try them both. You can get ours, you pick up theirs, and you can see the difference between the two. We were leaning into our Karate Kid lingos there. But so theirs is actually, we have Miyagi-san labels, and they have Cobra Kai labels. So theirs is black with yellow. But it was good. It was fun. Those guys are great. We worked with Indie lots, and it was fun to be able to go and hang out with them again. As you were saying, I guess people will be able to go to the Bills games again soon now that the borders will be open.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, and they can jump on tables in Buffalo.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's got to be a must. I do love the idea as well of doing the side by side wax on, wax off tasting, right? Like just pouring out a flight kind of for you and a friend if you have kind of a flight set and being able to experience that and see the differences and similarities of how that would all play out. But I gotta admit, this is one of my favorites that we have tasted, and I think that a lot of people will love and enjoy this. Go to sawdustcitybeer.com again is where you can find it. And Sam, enjoy yourself. Have a fantastic weekend and enjoy that mug because that thing is, I'm jealous. It's beautiful.
Cheers, man. Have a good weekend.
Cheers. You too.